theme for our Lenten journey is unshakable hope, God's promises. That's not how this began. Notice Ricky's ignoring me. We were going to do a book, we were going to use a book by Tim Keller, which essentially was about idolatry, which I thought was an absolutely scintillating topic. But Ricky nixed it. She just didn't think it was a good idea. Even though I was going to let you do the chapter on lust. You would be surprised, and some of you would be very, very surprised to learn that your home, Michigan, the Great Lakes state, now listen, is consistently ranked in the top 10 of the most beautiful states in these United States. You'd be amazed. And it's hard for you to hear because so many of us spend so much time constantly complaining about it. And yes, the roads aren't so good, especially in Southeast Michigan, but we are going to do something about that, aren't we?
Yes.
We're going to do something about that. Now, Governor Whitmer, I am with her 100%. I pray for her. I hope she is wildly, wildly successful, beyond our most fevered imaginings, but a gas tax of 45 cents, that probably needs to be tweaked, don't you think?
Yes.
That might need to be tweaked a little bit, but we certainly hope and pray for the very, very best. I've often said, as you well know, sometimes winter can get a little frosty. But also is the other truth, and this is almost never acknowledged. There are some winters when, in truth, winter never really comes, does it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure you were still with me. All right. But there are some winters. But maybe we're still caught up in, we just love to complain. It's our national pastime. But even if it were the coldest winter ever in the history of Michigan, do we have dust storms?
No.
Of biblical proportions?
No.
Like 7 million people who chose to live in the desert where there's no water?
Right.
Arizona? You've heard of that place, right?
Yeah.
A little cynical, I think. Do we have mudslides?
No.
Floods of Genesis proportions?
No.
Avalanches?
No.
Hurricanes?
No.
Firestorms and forest fires of West Coast magnitude?
No.
Droughts? You know what? Even if we did, we're surrounded by more fresh water than anyone on the planet. So I think you would agree with me. We're ready. Bring it. And the ground beneath our feet is solid, isn't it? Earthquakes?
Rare.
Well, actually, if you recall last spring, that's not exactly true.
We had a little one.
We had some tremors, I think up to 3.1, which would make people in California giddy, okay? All right? And also the fact, too, this is not often acknowledged, but I'll state it here for the record, this earthquake originated in Canada, so it's all their fault. So you just remember that.
Fault. Get it?
And yet the reality is that no matter where you live, no matter where you run, no matter where you move to, no matter where you try to hide, the ground that all of us stand on can shake and give way with little or no warning at all. A job that was going to see you through to retirement is suddenly lost. A financial setback, the death of a loved one, the end of a marriage, a diagnosis that comes like lightning from out of the blue. The ground can shake at any time. Some very close friends of my parents had a daughter, and this was just a little less than 2 years ago. They had a daughter visiting with her own daughter who happened to be doing an internship in of all places, in France. And they went out one day and they were walking along a busy street in the middle of Paris. And a man came out of the crowd took her life. The ground can shake at any time, even when the sun is shining. Julia is her name. She was my next door neighbor growing up on Long Island, about 10, 11 years my junior. In August, when we were together, she was the absolute picture of health. Tall and lean and strong and vibrant and full of energy. Since August, she's been like a guardian angel for my father. And then in December, she started having trouble swallowing. Waking up in the middle of the night, feeling as if she were choking. In fact, one night it was so bad, they had to call the ambulance. She was recently diagnosed with myasthenia gravis, which is a neurological disorder. You can go home, and I bet you some of you will, and that's okay. Go home and read about it. And when you're done reading, realize that you know as much about that disease as your doctor does. That's how strange and mysterious it is. No matter where you live, no matter where you run, and you try to hide, you can go to the Florida Keys, you can go to 100-mile road. No matter your station in life, no matter how the wall is around you, even if you are in a gated community with security 24/7, the world and your world can shake, and the ground can pitch, and it can heave. And it is to people just like you and to me, to my parents, friends, to Julia, living in a world that is unbelievably beautiful, and at times unbelievably precarious and dangerous, that God binds himself with promises. Somebody said that in the Bible there are about 7,400 promises, 7,400 promises. The vast majority of them positive, some of them negative, meaning that they lay out certain consequences if you do certain things, which I don't see as malicious, but love. You know, like, thou shalt not stick thy finger in the electric socket. I told you that because I love you, because I've done it before. Now, admittedly, promises in the face of trials and tribulations may seem like just words to us. And oftentimes, given our experience in life, and all of us are here, know what I'm talking about, people have made promises to you that they never fulfilled, that they never delivered on. And so there are times when the pastor talks about God's promises, it may seem insubstantial at best. Someone wrote this. Listen carefully. Promises are sweet lies. Talk about cynical. But then again, I get it. And I think you do too. I have been let down by people before in my life. And I've also let other people down as well. In my case, and I bet you I'm not just talking about myself. I bet you I'm talking about all of you. In my case, when I have failed, it wasn't that I was intentionally deceptive or I harbored some malicious intent. My heart was in the right place, and I know that yours is too. But just like me, I am a broken, fragile, fallible man. I have only so much time. I have only so much energy. I have only so much talent and ability. I have said this to you so many times. Wishing can be genuine and from the heart. But wishing someone well doesn't always make it so. But the point this evening is that God's promises are different. They are completely different. Ask Noah, who believed in rain when God told him, even before there was a word called rain. Ask Abraham, who left the place, the only place he had ever known, on a promise. And Moses, who walked across the sea on a promise, on unmoistened foot, who traveled across the desert, lost and wandering for 40 years, and as far as I know, never packed a bag. Peter, who rose from the ashes of regret and guilt, and Paul, who found grace. The God who makes promises unlike myself has the character and the power to back them up. God is unchanging, and faithful and strong. And when it comes to the God of Jesus, as Max Lucado writes, God does not deal in deceit. So the question this evening and throughout the Lenten season is not, will God keep his promises that he makes to us, all 7,400 of them? The question is, will you build your life on those promises? And will you filter the experiences of your life, the good stuff and the bad stuff, through the things that God tells us? You know the story, Jesus told it. The two men who built their homes. One on sand and the other on rock. And as you recall, the storms came. And as they always do, the house on the sand collapsed. The house on the rock survived the pounding of the wind and the waves. When we talk about God's promises, we're not talking about magic. I'm not inviting you to let go of the cross and pick up a rabbit's foot. It's not a guarantee that life will be devoid of challenges and problems and struggle and pain. But what it does do is that it promises the presence of God in the midst of the rain. In the last 24 hours, I have heard this particular report twice. Once reading it in a newspaper, and yesterday, in fact, I think it was just this morning. Essentially the same report. And being dim-witted and dull and thick-skulled, I thought maybe God was trying to tell me something. And the report was simply this. In the last 20 years, the gross domestic product of the United States has gone from 9.6 trillion to 20 trillion. 9.6 to 20 trillion. It's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
In the same period, the suicide rate has risen 24%.
Yep.
You know what that's called? It's called an epidemic, is what it's called. People from different professions are taking their turns scratching their heads, and everybody has their own unique take on it. But as for myself, I can't help but escape the thought that we have a serious heart problem in this country. And it's the kind of a heart problem that a cardiologist can't do anything about. At all. In the course now of the remaining 5 Wednesdays, I think it's good that we explore the promises that God makes to us. Because ultimately, those promises are the bedrock of hope itself. And in a world such as ours, where the ground, as you know, can shake without any warning at all, even when the sun is shining, we're reminded that we are in desperate need of being reacquainted with a hope that is unshakable.